Melissa from Melly Sews, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you how to do a few decorative embroidery stitches, and these hand embroidery stitches can be used to embellish clothing, as I did on this top. So the first one we're going to look at is a 6-pointed cross stitch, and to do this one here I've got my needle threaded with pearl cotton. And I like to use pearl cotton because you don't have to separate the strands like you do with regular embroidery floss. And I just like the look of cotton over polyester embroidery floss. So this is a really easy stitch to do, and this is really easy thread to use as well. I'm just going to bring my thread up through the hoop, and you can do this without a hoop too if you keep it small. And then I'm going to imagine a little square with the points being where I want my first X to be. And then I'm going to take the needle down through that one corner and bring it up through the other corner of the square, just like that. Once I do that, that's going to create the first cross of the X. And then I want to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to take it in, but this time, instead of bringing it up through the corner, because that's where I originally came up, what I want to do is come up through the midpoint between those 2 points of the X. So I'll take my needle through there. You see that formed the X, and now I'm ready to form the cross that's going to go across to make this like a 6-pointed star. So I'll go down in between these points, and I want to come up in between the 2 points on one side or the other of the X. And it depends on which way you're stitching. So like I'm going to go this way because my next design is going to be here. So I'm going to go through there and then I'll come back down in the midpoint between those two, and I'll be coming up at the corner to start my next stitch. You see that gets me my cross there. And now I've got my 6-pointed little cross stitch. And I'm ready to start on the next one. I would just do the same thing. I've come up already. I would go down and back up. Across and back up. From the midpoint, and then I want to hit the point of the star next to it. And then across and up to make my next one. And so in this way you can create a really cute little star border. Let's look at another stitch. I'm going to take this back onto the back side here. And then let's look at how to do a satin stitch. Now I'm just going to use a regular pin for purposes of demonstration, but when you're doing this for real you'd want to use a tracing pen that would either disappear with ironing or with water depending on your fabric, and of course you want to test what it's going to do. But let's pretend that I need to do a circle. So let's pretend I use my tracing pen and that's the circle I want to fill in. So here's how we would do a satin stitch. You're going to bring it up through one end of the shape that you're filling, and then back down in a straight line through the other end. Now it is tempting here to try to save thread and come back up here, but that's not going to work. What you need to do is come back up on the other side as close to that thread as possible, and then you will fill back in on the other side of the stitching. And you'll continue to do that, and you may have noticed that because you're doing this and you're going back and forth, always starting from the same side, this stitch will look the same on the front as it does on the back. So you're just going to the very edge as close as you can to that other thread and filling in. And that is how you do a satin stitch. I'm going to cut my thread and I'm going to switch to the edge of the fabric here to show you how to do a blanket stitch. So from the front side, I'm going to go down and come up, keeping my stitch, and you'll see how that makes the stitch lay right against the border. I want to tighten it till it lays against that border, but no further. Down and up through the loop of the thread. And if you over tighten it, or if you go too far away from the edge, you have to loosen it back up. And it's actually preferable to do this on stiffer fabric, or fabric that has had stabilizer put on the back, like interfacing or embroidery stabilizer. So, once again, taking the needle down and up through the loop. Let's talk about how to knot embroidery thread when you're done stitching. So what you're going to want to do is when you come up for your very last stitch, and I'm just making a random stitch here just for because to show you. So when you come up for that very last stitch, you want to leave a loop on the back side. And then you're going to come back down wherever your last stitch would have normally come down. And on the back side, you want to wind your needle into that loop and then pull the needle through, and you're going to pull it tight.